For many, Delamar and Levski were the first landing zone you got to experience when you started playing the verse for the first time, which is why it may sadden you to learn that 3.12.1 will see its removal. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video I'm going to go over why they're removing it and why this has huge implications for 2021's development year. And I'm going to warn you right now, if you came to this video hoping to leave a bit optimistic, what I'm going to tell you here is probably not going to leave you with the best feeling. But I promise you it's the truth, and that it's not necessarily a bad thing for Star Citizen for this year. So without further ado, let's break the bad news, and if you like this video by the end, which you might not, at least consider hitting that like button if you think I deserve it, because it does take me time to put these together, and every little bit of support helps me out. So officially, in lore, Delamar actually belongs in the Nyx system and is one of its only landing zones, so it was never meant to actually be in the Stanton system once Stanton was completed. According to CIG, it was only put in the Stanton system because it was a smaller scale landing zone that they could work out rather quickly as compared to the other planets, which required a lot more work with their planet tech that was not yet ready at the time. The idea was that eventually, after it was completely fleshed out, they would get it ready to pack up and put into the Nyx system when the Nyx system was ready to go. And so this day was always coming. The only strange thing is that it's coming right now, but it is no coincidence. CIG also posted on the forums why they've decided to remove it at this time, and the second reason, aside from the lore-based reason, was to free up resources on the server. Now, if you've not been playing Star Citizen 3.12 or even 3.11, then you might not know how bad the servers and desyncing has become. According to numerous posts by CIG, the reasons for this are very simple. There are a limited amount of resources that they're able to spare on a given server to the entities within the server, and this includes players as well as what they're doing with their ships and how many entities they're actually spawning during things like big fights. Many technologies were developed to combat this and try to make the servers a lot more efficient, such as object container streaming and server-side object container streaming, which effectively take entities on the server's memory and stream them out when a player is not present and stream them back in when they are. This is taking that stuff off of the server memory completely and putting it into a more stable form of storage, like a fast SSD, and then taking it off that SSD and putting it back onto the server memory when the player reapproaches. It was actually this important technology that enabled ArcCorp and Microtech to exist on the servers. Without it, CIG stated, it just would not be able to happen with the current server's memory. But these, of course, don't even take into account all the stuff that we're supposed to eventually have on planet and moon surfaces, like more cave variations, homesteads, harvestables, player-owned territory, player-owned space stations, NPCs flying to and from planet and moon surfaces, and the list goes on. But this technology was only ever going to go so far, and CIG knew this from the get-go, and that's why server meshing has always been one of the most important features to get online. Now, the really big question that many of us who have been following the project have had is how long is this technology going to last before server meshing becomes an absolute necessity before they can move forward? Going back to the desyncing starting in like 3.11 since Invictus, many of us had speculated that we have already kind of seen the limit and that CIG were going to have to do something soon to try to amend the problem in order for the game to be playable. But this was just mere speculation with no confirmation from anybody in official channels. Some optimistically hoped that server meshing and iCache were just around the corner and it would fix all of these problems, while some of us who were maybe a little bit more cynical kind of quietly suspected that they may need to start removing content in order to move forward. And so you've probably put the pieces together by now. The highly anticipated Xenothreat event is going to be adding a lot of entities and inducing a lot of fighting on the servers, which clearly the servers cannot handle, which means that the only way to free up resources is to remove content. And that is exactly what CIG is doing with 3.12.1. The primary reason they're doing it is because the servers can handle no more. OCS is at its limit. And this is what has huge implications going into 2021. For many of you who have been looking forward to Crusader, the gas giant with its magnificent gas clouds in the Orison landing zone, or even the Aaron Halo, and even, many forget this, the Stanton Star itself, those entities will not be possible until server meshing is done. And according to the roadmap, server meshing is slated to be done sometime at the end of 2021 after iCache. And this is only server meshing in its first form, which is likely to be a static state, meaning that it will not dynamically change its size. And so, the long and short of it is, Star Citizen will be getting no new locations and no new big entity updates in 2021. That means we will not be getting Crusader, the gas giant with its volumetric clouds and Orison landing zone, we will not be getting the Aaron Halo, and we will not be getting a physicalized Stanton Star. Oh, and certainly no Pyro or Nyx system, that's just completely impossible. The soonest we can expect this stuff is probably early 2022, but that's probably being optimistic. But hey guys, I could be completely wrong on this. I have been wrong before. Having said, I'm pretty sure I'm right, and many of you who've been following Star Citizen probably feel that in your gut. But before you go ahead and sell your account and join the Star Citizen Refund subreddit, there are a couple things you should keep in mind. First of all, places don't necessarily make content better in Star Citizen. It's the things that you can do in the game. What I mean by that is that events are actually a lot more engaging and interesting for a community than a place to visit that has not much going on for it. And so I think the fact that they're adding an event in place of Delamar is actually a pretty good thing. Further, and this is even better news, CIG have said that they plan on making new events for pretty much every patch going into the future, which will keep us, I think, engaged in these big 3-month patch cycles. But it's not all doom and gloom for the patches either. While we might not be getting any new big locations, there is a lot of stuff that they can update that has nothing to do with the server's resources. What do I mean? Well, here's just a small little list. We've got engineering tier 1, salvage tier 1, hacking tier 1, bounty hunting improvements, mining improvements, medical gameplay tier 1, FPS and ship radar improvements, missile system improvements, hauling improvements such as with volatile cargo for smaller cargo ships so they can finally be profitable, more varied missions for better reputation, and a better reputation system with a Mobi-Glass app that shows us our reputation with all the different orgs, improving the law system, which isn't great right now, especially with the prison system, and improving the prison system itself, improving and polishing the UI interface, including getting rid of that god-awful map that we have for Stanton and replacing it with something that's actually usable, better UI for ship fitting and player fitting, physicalized inventory because that depends on iCache and not server resources, remembering where you logged on and off with iCache, so no more 30k losing your entire load events, better planet tech with rivers, volumetric clouds, and perhaps even terrain deformation, dynamic weather and rain cloud cover, outpost improvements, dynamic NPC encounters, and bug fixing and polish, and finally, of course, ships. Always more ships. So what I'm saying here, guys, is yeah, it's an absolute bummer that we're not getting some of these really cool locations in the game this year. But keep this in mind. What we're missing from the game right now aren't more big, beautiful locations. What we're missing is gameplay. And gameplay is not something that requires a whole lot of server resources as compared to a gigantic location with tens of thousands of entities. So with all the things that I've listed, we've got a lot to look forward to this year. And of course, none of this really affects their ability to finish Squadron 42 at some point this year, hopefully to release at the end of this year, but more realistically, probably at the beginning of 2022. Squadron 42 is always a year away. So I hope you guys feel better at the end of this video. I know it was a bit of a downer halfway through, but as you can see, there is still a lot Star Citizen can do in the next year. But what do you guys think? Am I completely off base with this assessment? Do you have better insight into what's going on over at CIG? Let me know down in the comment section below. Otherwise, don't forget to head on over to Levski before it goes away when 3.12.1 drops, and let's look forward to the Xeno threat. I think it's going to be really fun. I'll be doing a video on that on my channel as well. Otherwise, I hope to see you guys next time. And, of course, farewell to you, Levski. We'll see you sometime in the next 2 years.